Have Trump's deportations gone too far, or have they not gone far enough? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. After years of unprecedented illegal immigration under the Biden administration, American voters finally got so fed up that they voted for Trump to crack down on illegal immigration. That's not my opinion. I'm quoting the New York Times. So Trump is doing just that against both violent illegal migrants and non-violent ones. And look, now they can even self-deport with the new CBP Home app. There's an app for everything. According to a late March CBS News YouGov poll, a majority of people approve of Trump's program to deport illegal immigrants. But of course, Trump is facing tons of pushback. Ever since he came back into office, he's been swarmed with lawsuits by immigrant rights groups and others, and been blocked by injunctions even from the Supreme Court. This isn't just about Trump deporting those he claims to be violent illegal immigrants. It's also about Trump deporting hundreds of thousands of others who were granted legal status under a Biden program. And let's not forget students he considers pro-Hamas. As a result, lots of panic has been spreading, especially after hearing horror stories like an American, US-born doctor being told to leave the country immediately. So it's not hard to see why even some Trump supporters are raising eyebrows, especially with stories like these: Afghan Christians being told to get out. The story's a little more complicated than that because they and many other Afghans were in the US under a temporary protected status Biden gave them after his botched Afghanistan withdrawal. But it was a temporary status and it expired. It wasn't ended. In any case, this is just one of many things fueling controversy over Trump's deportations, leading many to ask, what are we to make of Trump's deportations? Are they going too far? Now, I'm not here to preach to you, and you should definitely make up your own minds. So here is some of what the two sides on the issue are saying. For the critics, one of the biggest knocks against Trump is that he's increasingly hostile to basic due process. They say the U.S. needs to provide each migrant the opportunity to argue against deportation in court. After all, doesn't the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution say that any person, not just U.S. citizens, have access to due process and equal protection of the laws? And it's one thing to deport people back to their own countries, but to deport people to a maximum security El Salvadorian super prison? Even those who endorse Trump, like Joe Rogan, are warning about the dangers of sidestepping due process.
We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. The problem with things that are going in a radical direction, and then there's an overcorrection. So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through.
Rogan also warned that future presidents could use Trump's deportations to El Salvador as a precedent to deport their enemies. After all, wasn't it Trump who suggested deporting those he calls American criminals?
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that.
Trump's deportations aren't just going after people who entered the U.S. illegally. They're also going after people who came in through legal channels, which is why Trump can't simply revoke the legal status of migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, who came under Biden's immigration parole program. Did Biden abuse them to circumvent established immigration laws and in doing so overwhelm the U.S. immigration system? For the sake of argument, let's say that's true. But even so, the people coming in under Biden's parole program were following a legal process under the Immigration and Nationality Act. Pulling the rug under them by retroactively shortening how long they can stay without pointing to a specific crime committed raises a lot of red flags. As for international students, yes, we've heard about Trump wanting to purge pro-Hamas protesters and anti-Semitism from colleges, and how deporting foreign students for what they say raises questions about First Amendment free speech. But how much of it is even about countering terrorism, as Trump claims? Many universities claim the government isn't providing notice or a reason for revoking visas, and in most cases, universities discovered the visa revocations by checking the system. Inside Higher Ed observed that some campuses saw little to no political engagement over the Israel-Hamas war, yet students still had their visas revoked. College officials say that several of the students affected weren't involved in campus protests or considered student activists. And some colleges and universities have said their students had visas revoked for past or minor crimes, including traffic violations, underage drinking, and trespassing. Many of these cases were dismissed. Could the schools simply be hiding details because they want to keep the international students? Maybe. But perhaps the reasons for the revocations are overblown. Maybe not. There's just not enough public information to say for certain. Now, on the other side of the debate, there are those, like Trump, who say the U.S. is in a ridiculous situation. Millions upon millions of migrants have come in outside the normal immigration process, overwhelmed entire systems and communities, and brought preventable problems with them. This has been especially bad for migrant children, whom the Biden administration lost track of. And according to this New York Times expose, many ended up being essentially a slave labor force for major brands like Cheetos and Fruit of the Loom. Chester did warn us Cheetos are dangerously cheesy. We just didn't know what the danger was. So the situation is nuts and it needs to be fixed. What is the solution? Trump says the U.S. can't give every person it wants to deport a trial because doing so would take, without exaggeration, 200 years. And as we know, Trump never exaggerates. To many, it just doesn't make sense that a nation can allow millions of unvetted illegal immigrants in, but require court vetting for each deportation. Some believe it should be enough to simply establish whether people can produce appropriate papers to justify their stay, while others go so far as to say one-way trips out of America is the due process.
Under the due process that these Democrats so venerate for illegal invaders, it is legally impermissible for him to have one more minute in this country. So we honored the law and obeyed the law by getting him out of this country.
As a result, many on the right have come to the conclusion that Democrats are more interested in defending criminals than defending American citizens. People are also pointing out that expedited deportations without seeing a judge is nothing new. This has been around for decades under both Democrat and Republican presidents, ever since Bill Clinton passed the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, saying, "We won't tolerate immigration by people whose first act is to break the law as they enter our country." In fact, many on the left blame Clinton and Obama for setting the groundwork for Trump. Tons of people on social media have shared this post to point out the previous U.S. administrations deported immigrants but didn't receive nearly as much scrutiny as Trump. Those numbers of deportations for Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama appear to come from this 2017 report by the Migration Policy Institute. Trump's 100,000 comes from the New York Post. But this excludes numbers from Trump's first term in office. The Migration Policy Institute puts that at 1.5 million. It's also important to note that these numbers fluctuate depending on whether you include returns from the border, repeat crossings from the same person, Title 42 expulsions, etc. Many suspect that the push for due process is really about keeping millions of illegal migrants in so that they can win future elections. J.D. Vance is among them. I really don't know what he looks like anymore. He posted on X, "Ask the people weeping over the lack of due process what precisely they propose for dealing with Biden's millions and millions of illegals. And with reasonable resource and administrative judge constraints, does their solution allow us to deport at least a few million people per year? If the answer is no, they've given their game away. They don't want border security. They don't want us to deport the people who've come into our country illegally. They want to accomplish, through fake legal process, what they failed to accomplish politically: the ratification of Biden's illegal migrant invasion." Many criticized J.D. Vance for his comments, arguing that at their core, rights are not supposed to be negotiable based on how much resources the government has, or the amount of people they're looking to deport. But what do you think? Has Trump gone too far? Has he not gone far enough? Don't worry. We're not going to deport you for posting your opinions. Leave your comments below. And episodes like this require a lot of time and effort. Please support more episodes by subscribing to our new premium website, AmericaUncovered.tv. And you'll also get exclusive content, live streams, and more. Just click on the button that's been on the screen. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.